everybody. This is Patti, and welcome to the Witching Hour. Yep, that hour of the day when the veil is thin and magic happens. We have some beautiful magic for you today, and we get to know him together. He is a druid. Love that. He is an author, and he has a fabulous new book called Alpine Witchery. Let's all meet Christian Brunner. Welcome so much, Christian.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's really great to be part of that witching hour.
Thank you. Well, I just got that and I've gone through it a little bit. This is really different. It's Austrian folk magic, lore, and spellcraft, where you took a lot of this from the witch trials of the time, right?
Yes. Yes.
So tell us a little bit about it and what it is and what's in here.
In 400 years or so of witch trials between the 15th and the 18th century, there were some trials, not many, about 40 or so, where people that were accused or the witnesses revealed some spells that were actually done and for which folks were accused of doing witchcraft. And these exist still in court records. A fellow in the last century, so in 1920 or so, wrote them down verbatim as they were written in cursive in this really, really old documents. And so I took that textbook, he published that as a textbook for anthropology students. And I took that and basically translated that in modern German and then into English, which was a fun thing in and of itself, because they talked very differently back then. There was no German grammar back then. People just wrote down phonetically. So you have sentences with the name of the accused and the name written in three different versions in the same paragraph, not sentence maybe. So it just to know how to describe in the court was hearing it. And without any grammar and without any spelling guides, some of those things were a little bit difficult to translate. But in the end, I was able to bring it into modern English and share it.
Yeah, and there is some amazing spells. We'll talk about that a little bit too, but some funny spells like a spell to curse the owner of cows or a spell so you can't churn butter. That it's like
Big
how much you could use that in modern times. I love it. There's some great weather magic and all sorts of stuff. So what sparked your interest in itself, the folk magic of the Austrian Alps?
One thing is I am from there. I grew up in the Alps. I lived the first 30 years of my life there. So there's a natural connection to that. And through my being a druid and through my druidry, there is a big magical part of druidry as well. So a lot of other things, but magic is definitely a big part of it. And I just wanted to connect those two, especially since history, making sure that people know about your tribe, if you will, in the wider world. And Austria is so small, right? I think we have the population of Rhode Island, and yeah, it's a very small place, and people know it maybe only through sound of music, but there's so much more to it. And I wanted to share that.
But we
With
love
the
the sound
Witch
of
community.
music, that the hills are alive. So again, and you, with all that you did and the translating from trials, you have over 50 spells in here, right? How was it to translate besides the grammar and the language into modern day? How much into what we do in 2025, so to speak?
Yeah. So that is a big part of the book as well. There is always to each spell is like in today's world, and what I'm trying there is like, can you even do that today? Is it okay to do that? And are the ingredients still available? So those are three things. So, for example, what you mentioned, cursing. We have a beef with a farmer or with someone else, and they would go back then and curse the cattle or something or hurt them. And I mentioned it in the book. Don't do that. That's those are animals. They
It
are
didn't-
not go for the guy or the woman and not the animals. So that's one thing. The other is that there were a lot of things that they used and that are not available today anymore. And most prominently, they used a lot of things off and around gallows. So they used the splinters of the wood of the gallows. They would apparently sneak up on people hanging there and cut off patches of clothing and things like that. So yeah, that's not available anymore. But in one of the spells where you, for example, are supposed to cut off a patch of clothing of a hanged thief, you would take that, and that's one of the oldest spells. It's from the 1490s or something like that, and touch the person you love uh, with that piece of clothing, and they love you back. So that's very old, simple spell. And what I'm thinking is then, well, again, there's no thieves are treated or taken care of differently now, right? But there are still thieves. And how wide can you cast the net of being a thief? And maybe with a friend when you were young, you just grabbed an apple from a farmer's market or something. So technically, that is a thief. And you could take a patch of that person. And you can ask them, can I have a patch of your, because I love that other person there and I want to touch them with a piece of your clothing. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's very simplified, but you could still do that. And then there are other things in there that they used back then, especially in herbalism, that are, we know that they are poisonous. So of course, I'm warning people about that and what you could do instead. And so to make it safe for folks who read the book also, I guess that's one of the important parts of it.
So yeah, so like basically, what considerations did you have while selecting which historical spells to include? Again, oh wait, this is poison, or no, you can't get to a gallows or anything like that.
Mhm.
I can't wait to really get into it. It's fascinating and really so different than any other books I've seen out there. What is something that you think that would surprise people about this kind of spellcraft?
One thing that in the witchcraft community, in the witches community, I think what people would be very surprised at that pretty much all of them, and I would say all of the folks that I read about in their trials and in their lives were Christian. That was European lifestyle back then. Christianity or paganism, that the original paganism was eradicated like about 1,000 years ago before the book begins. Right?
Mhm.
So this notion that they had to suppress the paganism or so, that does not appear in those court records. Now, are they doing pagan things? Yes. And I'm a Druid. I'm totally on the pagan path, right? But I have to admit, like they invoke the Christian deities in their spells back then. And there's one in there, Christoph Gostner, who was tried. They found 65 or so witchcraft items in his home, and 30 of them were grimoires with all kinds of spells in there. He recites spells in court, but like one one of them that he recites, it starts with basically, "Oh Lord Jesus Christ, I'm kneeling here on a pile of dung," which in German it rhymes, right? It's like, "Oh Herr Jesus Christ, ich auf dem Mist." And then he goes into a rant because he wants to compel a thief to bring back the stolen goods. And he, in the spell, he asks Jesus to conjure demons, go after the thief, make his, I think his feet, or make him, or as much in pain as his mother was when she gave birth to him. And so that's the spell. It's really like you should have pain, and if you don't bring it back, this pain will be forever. Blah blah blah. But
Wow.
and so he recites that in court and other spells, and goes free, because in Catholic Tyrol, first of all, magic, it's not that bad. But as long as you don't ask the devil to do something, but Jesus, and if you do something that's considered good for the community, it's not that, right? Protestant, in Protestant environment in Salem, that would not have saved him, right? But in Catholic Tyrol in, I think, 1595 or something, you're good. You use magic, but whatever.
That's
So
wild.
yeah. So that's the, and that's also one thing. There's a very much of a sociological component to the witch trials that I was trying to work on.
That is, yeah. Your first chat, your chapter one of the book was who were the witches anyway.
Mhm.
So, did they consider themselves witches or just folk mountain people?
Yeah.
Like this
So
Christians?
yeah, so there's one spell in there where to go back to the Christianity for a moment, where three women were doing something and they denounced their faith for the duration of the spell. So they knew they were doing something that is not in accord with the faith. So they denounced it, but it was still their faith, right? They lived that. So that's the one thing. Um, the other thing that I wanted to mention, but sorry, can you repeat? So,
No, I was just saying, who were these people anyway?
oh, yeah,
When you
yeah.
were saying they denounced their faith, but this and that,
Mhm.
it was just
Yeah. So what I've seen a lot happening is that the social status of the person who was accused had a big role in the outcome of the trial, and the most you know telling situation that I've encountered in those trials was that there was a woman because she was nobility. She was an 8-time widow and immensely rich, and she was mentioned in two witch trials 10 years apart because often people would say, oh, this person is also a witch. And so two times that happens. She asked two very poor people who did witchcraft to do some spells so that her competitors' fields are drowned in rain, but not hers, so that she can sell her grain and all that. And not even accused of witch. So she doesn't even charged, right? They do not touch her. But of course, those two poor, you know, homeless basically folk, they get sentenced to death. Right.
wow.
So there's this definitely this class system that plays a big role in it.
So it sounds very much like baneful magic, like dark magic over let's bring love to everybody. I do know you have your book divided into sections like healing magic, weather
Mhm.
magic, and things like that. But was it just real survival level stuff? Is that what we're sort of looking at? Yeah.
Yes, very much so. I mean, even the healing magic is sometimes a little bit harsh, if you will, or strong. I mean, they just did what they knew needs to be done. But if the effect was that the person felt better, then that was okay. There is in the livestock match, which was a big thing back then, is that includes all of the butter and the milk, making milk sour and so forth. There are things in there that are very much practical magic. Right? There's one in there where you heat up a piece of iron until it glows and throw it into milk that has gone bad. Basically, you're pasteurizing milk at this point, but they didn't know it back then, right? That was before, not much before, but 50, 100 years before the first microscope was invented. And before they actually started to see bacteria, they did that, but they thought it was magic.
That's fabulous. So you for your personal path, were you born into the Druid path or a pagan path, or was this developed by you? What is your story?
So no, not at all. As I said, I grew up in Austria and it's like staunchly Catholic. And we had religion class in school and things like that. But I always questions a lot, and I was had to you know spend many of my religion classes outside the classroom on a bench in front of it because I was apparently asking too many questions. But so when I was 16, 17 years old, I got a book about shamanic practice. And that's where it really started. Uh, to when I learned that, you know, there are indigenous people who know and have that as part of their lifestyle, that there is a non-ordinary reality that you can tap into if you change your consciousness, things like that. So that's where, and I did that for a couple of decades before I even started Druid. Druid was more like archaic, very hands-on shamanic practice. That was the intellectual kind of navel gazing, if you even will, that kind of overlaid that old style of working that I enjoy a lot, like thinking, philosophizing about things, like how does that all connect with each other.
So did working on this book and these folks, did that challenge your thoughts, belief systems, or any way, looking at the history of where you are from and your practice now? Was anything surprising about it?
No, not that much, to be honest, because when you grow up over there, you hear a lot about the things that I put into that book as well. And that was actually it was more challenge. So I wouldn't say challenge, but when I submitted the manuscript to Heather, to Llewellyn, there was a lot in there that I just nonchalantly wrote in there because I know the details about it. And they came back and said, "But what does that mean?" Right? And I had to explain some Austrian traditional things in the book, and had to, sounds like it was a chore. It was fun for me to do anyway, but I didn't. I stumbled over some things where I just wrote the word basically in translation without explanation, but then had to go back and say, okay, in Austria, there's a certain room in the farmhouse where the family gathers for for dinners that are a little bit more than they just grabbing something to eat, right? As a guest, you go into the kitchen, sit on the kitchen table and then eat with them or something like that. But if there is some event, or if you're a guest that needs to be pampered a little bit more, you go into that particular room. And the German word is just the word for room. But in the context, we always know that now we're talking about this particular room in the house. They didn't have living rooms back then. So, with couches and all that. It was just like a special room. It was always a
Jeez.
little bit more tidy, nice table in there, sitting around and so forth. So these little details, that was the part that was actually kind of a sometimes fun back and forth, like, oh yeah, that's not worldwide culture, especially so not American culture, just in the Alps. That was fun to do as well.
That is fun. And I know Heather makes you do that stuff. I know
Yeah.
from it. So how do you want, again, this book is very different. I've been a lot of books or certainly regular spell books out there. What do you want people to get out of it? Or how do you want people to use it, whether regular practitioners or people within the crafts or people just wanting
Mhm.
to study the folklore?
Um, yeah, I think what I wanted to do is it's definitely not for the immediate beginner. I there's a few things in the beginning, like how to make your own broom or things like that, because there is a spell that references that. So I think what I wanted to do really is get people to look at these old spells and look at old spells they find in with their own ancestors and so forth, and prompt them to think about, like, how can I bring that old, we talk about literal traditional magic here, right? And how can I bring that into my 21st century practice? And so I'm trying to give sort of actual situations, right? And with the spells, how they did it. And now you go and understand the core mechanisms of that spell. And usually it is sympathetic magic. So you do something in the small thing, and it happens somewhere else to a bigger personal thing. So that's really what you can do. I mean, you can actually use some of those spells, of course. Some might be a little bit too wacky to
Yeah.
use, but you can.
For LA. I want to make some rain for Los Angeles.
Yeah, but that's exactly like back then. The situation was that it was either drought or too much rain, and so they had to do some magic around that. And nowadays, sometimes with the same situation, really, like especially in California, right? There's a lot of drought there, and then all of a sudden it rains so much that half the mountains come down. Some practicality in there as well.
Okay, I think that's great. It's really intriguing. You guys check this out. Want something different? Want something fun? Yeah, you want to know how to curse a cow or not churn butter? I just like those. Do you have a favorite for whatever reason, a spell or an incantation or anything like
Mhm.
this? Like this was it. This one really got me.
Yeah. What are the the spells in there that is actually to reverse a curse on a cow, because it is actually a very versatile curse insofar as you just have to exchange the location and who you address in the spell. So you can rewrite it for yourself if you feel like you've been cursed and you want to reverse a curse, or somebody asks you. And that's what I mean with prompting people to change these spells into what they need at the moment for a specific situation. And I think that's one thing that we have to really make sure to understand. These are spells that people were accused of doing them, and they were just for a specific situation that they felt they needed to do a spell. But those spells, it doesn't mean that they can only be used for that particular situation. And so you just have to be a little bit creative and rewrite them. And for example, the suggestion is for that reverse the curse on a cow. It's not for the Boston Red Sox, but go into the stable and do some things in there. So this was only written down because, and she was actually a witch who was accused in this situation. She was known to be doing witchcraft and living as a witch. So she admitted to that spell that she did this for a cow. If she had done, and if you want to do a reversing a curse on a person, you wouldn't go in the stable. You would go to their home, and then you would change how you address that person, or you do it for yourself in the wording of the spell, and then in the end it says something so that to mend the flesh of the cow, right? Because it's the honor and because the cow gave bad milk. So if you want to reverse a curse that the effect of that curse is that somebody has depression, you wouldn't say the flesh, you would say the mind, right? So you can really adjust that spell a lot into a lot of situations, all of them though, to reverse a curse.
I love that. Thank you. Okay, so again, you guys check out Alpine Witchery. So what's next for you? Do you have a new plan for your next book? I know you've done similar different research things. What's next?
Yeah, so what I'm working on right now with two Austrian friends is a book that covers all the Austrian traditions from November 1st, so Samhain, to April 30th. And many people might have heard of Krampus already, so that creature with the horns and fur, the long red tongue. But there are about 30 of those creatures that come in, especially during the time between the winter solstice and January 6th. We have a certain word for that, the smoke nights, if you will. They do a lot of traditional. Every farm does that. Like seining, smoking out their homesteads, stables, and so forth. That's still done, and so that there are creatures about, right? And we describe on certain days there's certain creatures, and then there's 2 weeks of this chaos. And the wild hunt is around, and then they're going back into the light half of the year. The traditions get lighter and lighter, right? So we're writing about that, and then at the same time we are proposing to make an oracle deck with those creatures. But we are writing the proposal right now, so that would be a fun thing to do as well. It's a little bit darker than the usual thing, but it's the half of the year. So
dark time. I love it. So thank you. All right. Well, let everybody know if they want to know more about you, where they can find you, any social media, and of course, where they can get this book.
Yeah, so you see my website is christianbrunner.com. There's also links then to my Instagram and Facebook accounts, which I, of course, don't know off the top of my head what the name is. I think it's just Christian Brunner author with an underscore before the author. And yeah, that's probably the two social media feeds that I use the most. They're really welcome to especially on Instagram, to view my content. There's some about traditional things that we do in Austria. There's some about just my life. And then I do some herbalism on there, processing herbs and spices into salves and whatnot.
Your healing and shamanic work. That's beautiful. You guys check them out. It's his name, christianbrunner.com. Again, fun, different than spell books out there. Check it out, Alpine Witchery, and Austrian folk magic, lore, and spellcraft. So thank you so much, Christian. Any last words for everybody before we go on and into that dark time of the year?
Yes, just enjoy it. As whenever somebody asks me what's your favorite season, my standard answer is the one that's current. It's because there's always something about that season that is really interesting and fun about. Enjoy the dark season and use all the energy that comes from that for, going into self and then prepare for the next year.
Thank you. Words of wisdom indeed. Thank you, Christian. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into The Witching Hour.
Thank you.